Hi guys, I'm Sam from the Untitled Life and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm redoing a video because the microphone cut out, so literally all you can see is my mouth moving and nothing seems to be coming out and it looks a little bit weird. So I'm going to redo normal and abnormal behaviours in animals and talk you through that, because you will know if you've been watching my channel for quite some time now that I did do some videos on behaviour, because behaviour is my forte. That's what my degree is in, well, my undergraduate degree. You'll also probably be aware that I am going to go off and I am going to be doing a master's degree, which is in something completely different. It's not exactly behaviour, but it is still a science subject, even though I didn't sign up to do a science subject in the first place. But that's more than that on a different video. I decided to talk about university experience if anybody's interested. So let's get started with today's video, shall we? So behaviour in animals is not that simple. It's not as cut and clear as you may think it is. I apologise for the balloons in the background here. That's because if you've seen on my Instagram page, we'd had a mock graduation ceremony because mine got cancelled or postponed, so we did our own. That's what the balloons are for. So anyway, back on dogs. So yeah, we're going to be looking at dog behaviour because a lot of us have dogs and it's easier to do. So we can't always understand, even the most expert dog owner may not always quite realise what their dog is doing, and their behaviour might be a little bit puzzling to them. And these are people who have maybe had dogs their whole entire lives. So to be able to teach your dog what is wrong and what is right, you do need to understand its behaviour, because obviously a lot of dogs, just like children, do have behavioural issues. So you need to sort of understand maybe why they're doing something as well, and what's a normal behaviour and what isn't quite a normal behaviour as well. So we're gonna look at normal and abnormal behaviours in dogs. We're then going to compare them to wolves, because wolves are their natural ancestor that's in the wild. They don't have the exact same behaviours, please note, but some of their behaviours, they do overlap slightly, because they are very similar in species. And obviously we got dogs from wolves, so which you'll know all about in my evolution of the dog video that I did. So yeah, so what's a normal behaviour? So a normal behaviour is something that is a very common behaviour to that species. So sometimes different breeds have slightly different behaviours as well. So dogs read a lot on body language, and so one of the things that they do is they wag their tail, as you know. But if you've got a dog that's like something like a pug, his tail isn't straight, isn't floppy, but he's curled over, that dog, that breed has lost that ability to be able to communicate with its tail. So that's just something a little bit to bear in mind. But we're just talking about dogs in general as a whole species rather than breed specific. And let's not forget that dogs are pack animals. Does not matter what breed they are generally pack animals. Even though some dogs are very happy to be the only dog, you're the alpha in a way. That they're going to see you as right at the very top of the hierarchy, because that's just how they are. And they're part of your family, so they've still got that sort of pack, if you will, even if there's only like two of you, that they're still this pack sort of orientation going on. So what are some normal behaviours? Okay, so chewing, especially for teething puppies, because if teething puppies are like a teething baby, you know, it's uncomfortable, it's not very nice for them, and it hurts, and the only way that they can relieve that pressure in their gums is by chewing something. So biting is another normal behaviour, especially in puppies when they play. Some dogs will play bite as well, or they will mouth you and not actually physically bite you. When I say not physically bite you, I mean they don't draw blood or break the skin. So when puppies play with their siblings, they learn how to fight and the basic skills they need to hunt. Wolf pups, or wolf cubs, if you will. So puppies carry on play fighting when they are adults with other dogs. Wolves don't generally do an awful lot of play fighting and playing with other adults once they are adults. It's mainly just the youngsters. So growling is another normal behaviour. It's natural for your dogs to growl to show that they don't like another dog's presence. They may do this when there's food around, so they see the other dog as a competitor, or a female is in heat, or they're very protective of you. So as you know, if you've got females don't like being around near each other when they're in heat or when they've got puppies, because again they see it as a competitor. But males, they may get very possessive and be like, no, she's mine, I'm going to mate with her, you're not allowed to. And they can obviously be protective of you as well. For example, apparently, though this is what I've been told, I don't obviously remember this because I was a baby, but we had a dog, well my mum did, and he was some sort of terrier and he was called Scamp. And apparently every time I cried when I was a baby, he would literally go and tell my mum he hated it. And it was quite a similar thing with my aunt's dog. Again, he was a terrier, and he was called Winston, and if I was asleep, he would sleep near me, and he would growl at my uncle. If my uncle came and check on me, he wouldn't let my uncle near me whatsoever when I was asleep. So they're examples of dogs being protective over humans. Barking. So barking is totally normal. It can be very annoying and very frustrating for you, but it is a very normal behaviour. My dog Rosie, I think I only ever heard her bark twice in her whole entire life. And other than that, she was silent. So barking is a normal way for your dog to communicate with you and other dogs. They bark for all sorts of reasons, to alert you to danger, or to tell you that like your baby's crying, or you know, they want other dogs to wait up for them. And I've seen this happen because when I had my dog Rosie, our family friend Sue, who now has Vinny, when she had her first canine partner who was called Quizzy, and my nana's dog Jake, so he's a Patterdale Terrier. Quizzy was a golden retriever and Rosie was a whippet cross with a lurcher, we believe, but she was whippet height anyway. So Jake, being a Patterdale Terrier, was not only was he the only male, but he was the smallest, and he was also the youngest as well. So when the girls used to run off in front of him because they had longer legs, and Rosie, obviously, because she was part whippet, part lurcher, and those two breeds of dogs are known for their speed, she could keep up with Quizzy fine, even though Quizzy had longer legs, and Jake struggled, and he would bark to tell them, hey, wait up for me, when they were all out and playing. So jumping, again, that's a completely normal behaviour. It's something that annoys us, especially when they jump up on you and they're covered in mud. But it's an actual way for your dog to let you know that they're happy, as well as the tail wagging. Because dogs want to be as close to your face as possible. So like when you're meeting a dog for the first time, if you go down to their level, it's less intimidating and less scary for them because you're not towering over them, but they're also being able to get to your face and they're not going to get told off and jumping up. So scent marking is, again, it's really annoying, but it is a natural behaviour. And when I say it's very annoying, it's when you'll know if you've got a dog yourself and you go out and you walk it and it pees half a dozen times and you stood there thinking, why can't you just get it all out your bladder in one go and it'll be easier and it'll be much more comfortable for you? Or they'll still continue to go through the motions of peeing when there's nothing left to come out. That's scent marking. And they'll literally pee on anything that they think is theirs. It's more in males than it is in females, because testosterone has a stronger scent and is more powerful than estrogen and well, it's mainly estrogen. There is the other one that begins with P that's completely gone on my head, which is a bit concerning because I'm female and I have the hormone. Anyway, so dogs miraculously can smell things up to like 2 weeks. If another dog's peed on it like a tree, that scent will stay there for up to 2 weeks. And the dogs can still smell it 2 weeks later. So, some abnormal behaviours and some of the reasons behind those behaviours. So if you see these dogs, your dog's doing this, then you have a fair idea why they're doing this and what you need to do. Head pressing. Head pressing is when a dog presses its head against the wall or other objects for no apparent reason. Head pressing can happen to any dog at any time. This behaviour can be a result of neural damage or because of certain toxins. The dog doesn't actually have to press its head against the wall to express head pressing, but the head can also be lowered. You may find that your dog's sitting facing a corner or is not moving. If this is the case, then you should immediately take your dog to the vet. So what causes head pressing? Well, we've said about it being caused potentially by certain toxins, which comes from poisons. So your dog's maybe been poisoned, and that is the most common reason for this head pressing behaviour. Other known causes are unfortunately like trauma, canine distemper, neurological diseases, and even meningitis. So infections or cancers of the nervous system as well, and could also be down to unfortunately like brain tumours as well. Self-mutilation, birds do this as well, especially when they're stressed, and they will over-preen their feathers and they will take their feathers out, and sometimes those feathers don't grow back. So self-mutilation is known as over-grooming. Grooming is a normal behaviour. What's abnormal is when a dog keeps grooming itself and causes harm to its skin or it removes the fur. Sometimes a dog can damage its tissues by over-grooming itself. And the causes of self-mutilation are tail biting, repetitive licking, sucking on its own flank, allergies, infections, and pain. So again, if you see any of these, then I suggest you take them to the vet. Tail chasing, again, can be a normal behaviour. But when your dog does it 6 times a day, only turning for a short while, then it can be considered as OCD. The causes of tail chasing are very simple. Your dog may chase its tail because it's just a playful puppy, but it can continue into adulthood, especially if you gave your puppy a lot of attention when they did it. Dogs are like children and may seek your attention. Tail chasing can just be an act of attention or boredom. Another reason for tail chasing could be injury. Your dog has hurt its tail and it's investigating the damage because it's really hard for them to see, and obviously the tail keeps moving, so the head keeps moving to follow the tail. And 2 other reasons for tail chasing are anxiety or psychological issues and neurological conditions. So I worked in a kennel for a short time. I did like a summer between my first and second year, so this was the summer of 2019, I believe. Hired someone back at Christmas that year. But they had a little Jack Russell terrier in called Simba. And he was a nightmare. When you went into the kennel to try and get him out or to do anything, he would literally chase his tail. He was very aggressive as well, and this all came from stress. He did not like being in the kennel. He did not like it at all. He had only just been injured, so he had been to the vet recently as well, so that was obviously still playing on his mind by the time he did get to the kennel, and yeah, it was just horrendous for him. And like I said, he kept chasing his tail for like 10 minutes straight every time you moved him, and he wouldn't walk near you. You literally had to drag him, which wasn't very nice. So compulsive disorder. So compulsive disorders are normal behaviours that are exaggerated or exhibited over a long period of time or repeated out of context. Examples are self-mutilation, tail chasing, flank sucking, and just to name a few. The causes are conflict, stress, and frustration. Learned helplessness, which I absolutely hate. Learned helplessness is when a dog accepts its fate and doesn't try to change its situation. Learned helplessness is mostly seen in abused dogs. So that's why the fostering process of rescued dogs can be a long and hard process indeed, getting them ready for adoption, because they think they've got it into their head that, you know, you're no better than the people that they've just come from, that you're going to abuse them and you're going to hurt them, and they just accept this as a fact. And it is so sad to see. However, after a lot of patience and a lot of hard work, dogs can come out of it and be very happy dogs after that as well. So an example of what causes this is in 1965, which I do not condemn this. This was the 60s. This is not allowed now. You cannot do these kinds of experiments anymore on like things like dogs and cats. Unfortunately, things like this are still being done on rodents such as mice and rats. But anything larger, you aren't allowed to do it. It's certainly in the UK. Anyway, that's the case. Other countries, I'm not quite sure. So an example of what causes this learnt helplessness is that in 1965, a scientist, he did this experiment to further his knowledge on classical conditioning. So remember, we've already spoken about classical conditioning and what classical conditioning is. And just a little bit of a reminder of what classical conditioning is. Classical condition is where a dog will associate something with something else. So Pavlo, he had some dogs, for example, and when he rang a bell, first time, the dogs didn't react at all. But then he would ring the bell and he'd give the dogs the food. And he would do this over a period of time, and then eventually he would, and the dogs would slaver, and eventually he would ring the bell and the dogs were slavering, but he wouldn't actually give them the food because they started to associate that when that bell was rang they were going to get food, and so they were starting to slaver in the, waiting for food. They were anticipating this food. So that's what classic conditioning is, and it is something that we still do use today. Remember when we mentioned about training and you use a clicker, and dogs eventually they associate that click with a treat when they've done something good. So he rang a bell and then he gave a dog a light electric shock. Right, so he rang a bell just like in the first classical conditioning experiment, but instead of them being rewarded with food, they were given an electric shock. So the dogs then started to react as if they had been shocked when they heard the bell, even when they hadn't. He furthered this by placing the dogs in a room with a fence. On one side of the fence was an electric floor. On the other, there was no electricity. When he tested the dogs that he had originally shocked, they just laid down and let themselves be shocked. When he repeated this with dogs that he hadn't shocked, he learned that they jumped to the other side. And this process has been recreated with rats. Again, I do not condone any of this. Not condone. I don't condone any of this. I wouldn't recommend doing any experiments that are going to harm an animal or a person. So let's have a look at comparing some of the behaviours of wolves and dogs. Because remember, like I said, the behaviours aren't the same. They don't act in exactly the same way, but they do have some behaviours that do overlap. So, one of the most common similarities between a wolf and a dog, which many of us forget, is that they're pack animals, okay? So wolves, you may not be aware, are actually more intelligent than dogs. So your adult dog has the comprehension of a 1-year-old child, okay? The words and the sounds, well, it's actually the sounds that they understand, not the actual words, and that's the same level as a 1-year-old human child. And this is an adult dog. This is all new. They've just discovered it. They first originally thought it was 2 years old, now they're saying it's 1 year old. So, a adult dog, when we're comparing that to a wolf, has the same cognitive ability as a puppy wolf, as a cub. This wolf cub, this baby wolf, right? When a wolf is an adult, they're much more intelligent than what these dogs are when they're adults. And the reason behind this is us. So when we looked at the evolution of the dog, we found that wolves, they came to us for easy food. They were scavenging and whatever. And the less aggressive wolves, we decided because they were going to live near us, we were going to keep breeding them. So the less aggressive these wolves were, the easier it was for us to look after. So wolf pups obviously are very, they need their parents, they need their pack. They're very dependent on the rest of the pack and the rest of their family members, right? So their mum, their dad and the siblings, they're very dependent on them until they're adults and they can look after themselves and they can join in with hunts. Where dogs, we keep them at that intelligence of a wolf pup so that they're dependent on us all the time, which makes it easier for us to be able to manipulate, if you will, that dog's behaviour to do stuff for us. So like training, when we're training them to sniff out bums, assist us in things that we can no longer do, and things like that. And well, even just looking after them in general is so much easier because they have that ability of a child than having the really smart intelligence to be able to look after themselves like a wolf. Okay. So, you may have noticed that if you have more than one dog, there's going to be a leader. There's always a dominant dog out of the two, right? Most of the time, your dog will work out which human is top dog. Because your dog will have a preference between you and your partner, per se. If you have a partner and you just have a dog, your dog will have the preference between you and your partner, and they'll know which one that they can push over and get away with stuff, and they'll know which one they can't, which one's a bit more stern with them, which one stamps on their authority a little bit more. But there will always be one of your dogs who is higher up in the pecking order than the other if you have more than one. This is because wolves have a pecking order, so they've got the alpha male and female right at the very top, and they are the breeding pair. They're the only ones that breed, and they are generally the parents of the rest of the pack members. And then we get all the way down to pups and elderly wolves of the pack, if there is any elderly wolves of the pack. Unfortunately, wolves don't generally get to old age because of conflicts with other wolves, or they meet their end with by a car, which is not very nice. One difference between the wolf and the dog is that the alphas have pups, where we will just breed from our dogs regardless. We just breed from them because we want to. We've gone through breeding, and we've discussed the reasons why people breed their dogs. So yeah. So, some of us have children. We may or may not, but some of us have children, some of us don't. That's a far wrong. But we breed from our dogs, making it so that any pack member can have breeding rights. Because, they will see you as the alpha male and female. So this explains why bitches, female dogs, not swearing, tend to fight after both of them have had a litter. Because they see each other as a competitor, and they're going to harm the other's pups. So wolves are known for their blood curdling howl, which I think is absolutely the most beautiful sound that you're ever going to hear on this planet. And they do this to communicate with their pack and to send a warning to rival packs. Similarly, our domesticated dogs bark to communicate with each other and with us. So each bark has a meaning behind it. For example, when you pet your dog and it yelps or it whimpers, it's trying to tell you that that spot that you've just petted is really painful, so please don't touch me there again. A wolf's behaviour changes seasonally, well, your dogs don't. And if you look below, you will... Right, okay. So, dogs... Basically, I had done a chart with some observations of domesticated dogs and their behaviours, because obviously I didn't have a wolf on hand to be doing stuff from that. So, a dog's behaviour, it really does not change all that much from one day to the next unless something is extremely wrong. So, where wolves do. So, for example, wolves mate in February, and they have breeding seasons, these wolves, where domesticated dogs don't. They can breed whenever the female comes into season, and this, whenever a female dog comes into the season, or a domesticated female dog comes into season, differs between depending on the breed. So in conclusion, even though dogs are descendants of wolves, there are quite a lot of differences between them. There are some similarities, mainly between your domesticated dog and a wolf pup, that help explain why dogs do some of the things they do, like their ability to pick out an alpha, and some behaviour that is normal to the dog species may become abnormal over time due to a variety of things like illness. So that is all I have for today on this particular episode. I hope you have learnt something. If you have learnt something and you think your friends could learn something and they can get a kick out of this, then share this video. If you have not already done so and you would like to after seeing this video, then you can click on my face down here. And that means you can subscribe. If you click that notification bell, you will be notified every Wednesday and Saturday when I upload a video currently. And if you want to see any of the other animal behaviour related topics that I have been covering, then there'll be a playlist down here for you to click on. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye!